ancient and existed by the Bujik.
Other things, your environment, your surrounding, your past and future. Just focus breathing in and breathing out. You are like the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper means just focus at the gate and note who is coming in and going out. Should not follow any inner and outer. Just wait at the gate. The gate is your nostril area. Breathing in starting, breathing in middle, and breathing in ending. Breathing out starting, breathing out middle, and breathing out ending. Forget all other things. Your environment, your surrounding, your future, and your past. From your body, you can attain enlightenment just observing from your body. Everything is changing. You have to note. Even everything is impermanence. Samatha practice makes your purification. Visuddhi. Now Vipassana makes you liberation. Vimukti, penetration. Is the one of the most important practice. If you have loving kindness, then you have compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity power. Please relax your mind. Just focus visualization to your body. According to Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation, we have to send loving kindness ourselves first. Please follow mentally with me. You have to see your body, visualize your body. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from danger. May I be free from enmity. Be liberated. be liberated. Just mentally you have to follow. And then we have to send in this hall all our Sakyadhita members, everybody. You see, by mine eyes, may they be free from suffering. May they be free from danger. May they be free from enmity. May they be peace and happy. Be liberated. Be liberated. And then we have to send all this compound, every beings, every humans, deities, animals, everything. May they be free from suffering. May they be free from danger. May they be peace and happy. Be liberated. Be liberated. And then we have to send across this country, Mongolia, all humans, men and women, all beings, deities who protect here, spirits, everything. You have to send loving kindness from your heart, very deeply. May they be free from danger. May they be free from suffering. May they be peace and happy. Be liberated. Be liberated. Then we have to send 10 direction, east direction, west direction, south direction, north direction. Southeast, southwest, northeast, northwest, above and below. All beings, all humans, all spirits, all deities, all Brahmas, even from the hell who suffer a lot. We have to send loving kindness from your heart. Focus to your all. May they be free from danger. May they be free from suffering. May they be peace and happy. May they be free from enmity. Be liberated. Be liberated. And then we have to send our own relatives who is alive or who are passed away or who cannot liberate, especially our relatives, teachers, friends, everybody. May they be free from danger. May they be free from suffering. May they be peace and happy. Be liberated. Be liberated. And we have shared our loving kindness, metta, special who is arranging this conference, the 10th of International Sakyadhita Conference, all committee was helping a lot. Even from the hotel, every levels or everybody, we have to share our merits to them, our loving kindness to them. May they be free from danger. May they be free from suffering. May they be peace and happy. Be liberated. Be liberated. Bhavatu Sabbamangalam Rakantu Sabbativata Sabbabhuta Nubhavena Sada Sukhi Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sabbamangalam Rakantu Sabbativata Sabbadhamma Nubhavena Sada Sukhi Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sabbamangalam Rakantu Sabbativata Sabbasanga Nubhavena Sada Sukhi Bhavantu Te Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. Be peace and happy. Be free from suffering. Be free from danger. Be liberated. Be liberated. Thank you very much, everybody.
course, our topic, as you know from the program, and the programs have arrived. After this session, please line up and we will distribute the programs, the conference programs this morning. They've just come from the printer. Our first distinguished speaker on this topic of Buddhist women in times of transition is Uli Minder. Now, we always have at least one token male speaker. And this year, I'm happy to say it's Uli. Uli has been helping us non-stop for the last 3 weeks. Without him, this conference would not be happening. Thank you, Uli. And he's been living in Mongolia for 8 years. And he is going to give us some background on Mongolia, because where are we? So, Uli is the CEO of FPMT Mahayana Center. You're probably familiar with Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. They have almost 100 centers around the world.
Bad night here in Ulaanbaatar. There were demonstrations. Buildings have been burned. Okay. There have been demonstrations in Ulaanbaatar. Buildings have been burned. Cars have been burned. Many people are injured, are in hospital now. And the president, he declared state of emergency for the next 4 days. Which means curfew in the evening, no public gatherings. I hope this is not a public gathering. And also no TV broadcasting except the state television. So I hope we are safe here, but I think it's important that we keep our thoughts on the people of Mongolia who are now going through a very difficult time. That's for the beginning of my speech. In 1937, where 700 monasteries have been destroyed, 10,000 of monks have been killed or sent abroad or forced to be married. But Buddhism remained in the heart of the people all the time. But for most of these people, the knowledge of Buddhism has been lost. It only stayed in the books, written in Tibetan language, or in a Mongolian script, or with a few brave Buddhists maintaining the practice in secret. Since 1990, things have changed. All of these changes, and many other things, have only been possible due to the help of Bakula Rinpoche, who has been here as the ambassador to India in Mongolia. Monasteries have been restored and the practice started again. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has visited Mongolia a few times, and some other highly realized lamas too. Some of them, Chado Rinpoche, Rizom Rinpoche, Denma Locho Rinpoche, and Lama Sopa Rinpoche. They have given teaching here in Ulaanbaatar and also in the countryside. They also have given initiation, and it helped a lot that people regained faith in the Buddhist tradition. The interest of Mongolians to learn about Buddhism grew, and the first regular Buddhist teaching in the Mongolian language for lay people started at the Lamrim Monastery and then at our center. It was very moving for me to see the gratefulness of the people when they came to the teaching and heard for the first time teaching of Buddhism in their own language. Also, young people's interest in Buddhism started and grew. Many started to attend the teaching and read books. And now a few Buddhist youth groups exist. We saw one person yesterday on the stage of these youth groups. TV programs and also the radio programs, as we have heard yesterday during the speech. So we can say Buddhism came back to Mongolia, but there is still a lot to do. So I will mention a few points that I think are important to think about. The first point is preserving the Nalanda tradition of Buddhism. Will Mongolia be able to preserve the treasure of its own Buddhist history, preserve the high philosophical studies and the works of the great scholars? Will it be able to revive the spiritual achievements of the many highly realized practitioners? Mongolia had a very developed standard of Buddhist art, will it be able to produce enough qualified artists again? Concerning Buddhism, the Tibetan tradition and the Mongolian tradition are the same. Both came from the Nalanda tradition. His Holiness Dalai Lama mentioned on his last visit to Mongolia, "You have the great responsibility to carry the preservation of the Nalanda tradition, because the Tibetan nation is in great danger." Building the monastic university is one huge task, but filling the building with life and vibrating spirituality will be even more difficult. I pray that enough young Mongolians will be brave enough and engage in the proper studies to preserve the precious Nalanda tradition of Buddhism and let it flourish throughout Mongolia. Second, what about the Buddhist society? As I mentioned already, Buddhism is in the heart of many Mongolians, but it will be lost without a proper monastic community and teachings for the people. It is leaving out the parts that require some effort and a change in our way of life and thinking. The third point is the language. There was a language for Buddhism in Old Mongolian script, but it has been lost for the great majority of the society, mainly because of the introduction of the Cyrillic, the long repression of Buddhist teaching, and the modern Mongolian language that has not the proper words for Buddhism. The fourth point is about Buddhist practitioners, Sangha and lay people. A spotless monastic culture and proper Sangha are needed in Mongolia if they want Buddhism back. That's something that Bakola Rinpoche mentioned a few times. It's the immeasurable value of the vows of the monks and nuns that caused the Sangha to be respected so highly. There should be teaching for the public about how to respect monks and nuns. But there is a great effort needed from the side of the Sangha too. For me, it's been many such beings in the past, and it's probable that lay practitioners will play a greater role in the future. The fifth point is about Buddhism and social engagement. The Christians they give, and the Buddhists they take. This can be heard so often from Mongolians. One way of this judgment emerges due to the lack of understanding of the value of spiritual practice. But the wealthy lifestyle of some monks could be the reason for this judgment too. And the fact that most Buddhist organizations are not involved in any social engagement. Again, some advice from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Buddhists could learn a lot from Christians and their work for poor and sick people. Compassion in action. The next point is a point about the teachers. Our organization has been requested many times already to go to the towns and cities in the imags in the provinces to teach about Buddhism. There is a huge demand from the people to receive teachings. We only have been able to teach at a few places. FPMT Mongolia simply has not enough resources. It would be much better if there would be enough Mongolian teachers available to satisfy the requests. If Buddhism should flourish in Mongolia, the Mongolians should understand the basic ideas of Buddhism. Therefore, basic teachings are much needed. Another point is Buddhism in the education system. Children and adults know a lot about Jesus from TV and missionary activities, but many of them have no idea about Buddha. In most countries, the children are taught about the traditional religion from kindergarten on. Will the children in Mongolia have access to Buddhist culture and many of the highly valuable Buddhist stories in the future? I feel that there is a high demand for education on ethics and values. This would help a lot to solve many of the problems the Mongolian society is facing. Courses for teachers about these subjects need to be arranged. Curricula need to be developed. And learning materials should be available too. A Buddhist book for children and Buddhist books for children are much needed. It's one of my personal biggest wishes. His Holiness Dalai Lama said, education is very important for basic human values, understanding that no one exists in as an isolated individual. We are all interdependent. Problems far away will eventually affect us. This is not religion, but reality. Understanding the reality of our situation and develop the basic human values of warmth, affection, kindness, and compassion. So this idea of curricula for peace and ethics is very important. As I mentioned already, we also have to think about preserving the teachings and the art. Mongolia has so many precious Buddhist texts and objects of Buddhist art in various libraries, museums, and monasteries. Some in the possession of private people, and some still hidden somewhere. It's a great task to preserve these texts and holy objects, store them digitally, and also make them available and visible for the scholars, practitioners, and even the wider public. Some projects are already set in place to do this important work, but more effort is needed to be done to prevent irreparable loss. And the last point is the money. A huge part of the work that has been done to develop Buddhism in Mongolia after the democratic revolution has been sponsored by Buddhists and organizations abroad. Mongolia deserved this help to develop its society and preserve its culture. But the economic situation in Mongolia has changed a lot in the last 18 years. There is no doubt that there are still many Mongolians living in poverty, but there are many very, very rich Mongolians too. I'm convinced that in the future the bigger portion of sponsorship must come from Mongolians if Buddhism is to flourish again in this beautiful country. These are only a few thoughts about the development.
Very much, Willie. Our next speaker is Professor Hyung-Sun Lee, originally from Korea, now a professor at the University of Georgia. Her paper is titled Reclaiming the History of 4 Bhikshuni Temples in Seoul, the case of Cheongyongsa. This will be taking us to another country and looking at Buddhism in transition there.
Which served as the centers of Buddhist faith and practice for women during Joseon Korea. This dynasty lasted from 1392 to 1910. The 4 temples refer to Cheongyongsa, Cheongyangsa, Mitasa, and Bomunsa. They occupy a unique place in the history of Korean Buddhism, as they were the only Bhikshuni temples that were allowed to remain open when all the nuns' temples in the Seoul area were forcefully closed in 1475 under Joseon's anti-Buddhist policy. These 4 temples were located close to the palace that court ladies could visit them in a day trip. Consequently, the temples were all supported by upper-class women and palace ladies. But Cheongyongsa had a special relationship with the royal families of Goryeo dynasty, which preceded Joseon dynasty, and Joseon dynasty. So both dynasties were involved in this temple, because several of their members, royal family members, served as abbesses of this temple. The 4 temples are landmarks for Buddhist women in Korea. However, their history has been nothing but turbulent. During the Joseon period, they were under the constant surveillance and threat of the Confucian literati. It was only in the 20th century that they became free from the Confucian ideological suppression. With the advent of modernity in Korean society, however, these temples soon faced the equally tyrannical forces of urban development. The renovation and restoration of the 4 temples has been left to a small number of nuns, while the government and lay Buddhist financial support has chiefly been directed to large-scale monasteries for monks. Focusing on Cheongyongsa, I will examine the historical and religious importance of Sasengbang, the 4 temples, and the efforts that nuns have made in order to protect their temple sites, practice tradition, and lineage history. Although my main concern lies in bringing their past and present situation to our attention, my presentation will not only address their struggles, rather, my ultimate purpose is to explore effective ways in which these temples can preserve their tradition in the future. Brief history of the four temples. The four temples have a long history. Cheongyongsa was built in 922 by the order of the founder of the Goryeo dynasty, traditional nuns temples. Its temple gazetteer lists the names of 3 abbesses from the Goryeo period and those of 9 from Joseon. Their names have been passed down to us because each of them was responsible for a major renovation project. The gazetteer also offers information on 2 queens and 1 princess who renounced the household life and took vows at Cheongyongsa. They were Queen He, the second wife of Koryo's King Gongmin. King Gongmin's first wife was Mongolian, by the way. Princess Gyeongsun, the daughter of Iseonge, who toppled Goryeo and founded Joseon. And Queen Jongsun, the tragic wife of King Danjong, the 6th king of Joseon, whose throne was usurped by his uncle and was killed afterwards during an exile. Queen Jongsun was ordained as a bhikshuni at the age of 17, together with Danjong's 2 concubines and 3 of her servants. Queen Jongsun is considered to be the last bhikshuni from the royal family in the history of Joseon. The anti-Buddhist policy strictly forbade members of the royalty to become nuns. The majority of the abbesses of Cheongyongsa came from the top echelon of Joseon ruling class, and we know very little about them other than their dharma names. However, the life story of one 16th century bhikshuni who once served as the abbess at this temple recently came to light. She is known as Bhikshuni Yesun. A crucial lead to her identity and her biography, partial as it is, was a poem whose authorship had often been attributed to her. Yesun's story exemplifies typical misperceptions of Buddhist nuns in Joseon society. In popular lore, she was and still is dubbed a notorious adulteress. However, my research for the last 3 years has revealed a very different portrait of her. She was an exceptionally intelligent and devoted Zen practitioner who was venerated as a living Buddha among court ladies, including Queen Yu, the wife of Prince Gwanghae, and Lady Kim, the king's favorite concubine. Due to time limitations, I cannot go into the details of her biography, which was reconstructed from a wide range of historical material. But the dramatic life she led, because of her uncompromising pursuit of awakening, sheds a new light on the role Buddhist nuns played as spiritual leaders amid oppressive Confucian patriarchy. The rediscovery of Yesun's life reinforces the importance of Cheongyongsa and indeed of the 4 temples in mapping the history of Korean Bhikshuni Sangha. It is a historical irony that Yesun's biography was unearthed due to her unconventional behavior, which troubled male historians to the point of recording it in historical texts. Her story is just the tip of the iceberg, and yet it gives us hope that we will be able to learn more about those nuns whose lives has been buried in the passage of time due to our indifference, despite their contributions to the survival of Buddhism in Joseon. Problems of modernity. The abolition of the anti-Buddhist policy at the end of the 19th century brought freedom to the monastic community in Korea. However, nuns at the 4 temples had to deal with a new set of problems. The most serious ones came from urban developers, but they were not the only group that troubled the 4 temples. After the Korean War, the military government launched an all-out economic development plan in the name of national modernization, which meant industrialization, urbanization, and westernization. As is well known, Christianity spread widely in Korean society during this period. The source of the problem for the 4 temples was their geographical locations. Since they were close to the city center, their land prices skyrocketed, attracting unwelcome attention from construction companies, real estate brokers, government officials, Christian missionaries, and even powerful monks. Nuns had to fight with the buying eyes of these groups on their temple sites. In an informal interview, one abbess stated that they had to deal with gangsters who trespassed into their temple ground in the evening and scared the nuns. Then, during daytime, the representatives of the construction company, which obviously had sent those gangsters, visited the temple with smiling faces, offering, quote-unquote, good compensations for letting them demolish, quote, old and crumbling Dharma halls and redevelop their temple compound, unquote. This type of blackmail began in the Japanese colonial period and continued until recently. Hence, all of the 4 temples have lost large portions of their lands. For example, Cheongyongsa used to cover roughly 9 acres, but now it is less than 1 acre. Much of that small piece of land was in fact purchased back by the former Abbess Bhikshuni Yunho and her disciple and present Abbess Bhikshuni Jinu. This kind of struggle has taken away the beauty and tranquility of the monastic compounds. The continued conflict deteriorated the landscapes neighboring the monastic quarters. The temples directly face 15 or 20-story apartment complexes, and the nuns' movements are fully exposed to the curious eyes of their residents. In Cheongyangsa's case, towering apartment buildings stand right in front of the main entrance to the temple, creating quite an eyesore. Similarly, a massive tunnel was constructed across the former properties of Bomunsa, which has suffered from noise and air pollution. Mitasa is no exception to this problem. A huge overpass is visible from every corner of the temple. Recently, the construction of the tall modern apartment buildings destroyed the roof of Cheongyongsa's main Dharma hall and parts of the temple walls. However, the nuns hardly received appropriate compensations for such damages. Another sensitive issue for the 4 temples is the so-called One Temple, One Church slogan upheld by some evangelical Christians. They built a church on the hill right behind the Cheongyangsa, squeezing the temple from the back, while shabby apartment buildings blocked its front. And similar situations have been noted in other 3 temples. It was not difficult for the combined forces of religious dogmatism and commercial interest to find cooperation among local district officers driven by the idea of modernization. On top of all these factors, we find the persistent legacy of male chauvinism toward the Buddhist nuns. Now, conclusion. The future of the 4 temples. The 4 temples have overcome a variety of challenges in their long history. While we should applaud the fierce efforts of the nuns there to protect their practice tradition, we should find a concrete way of preserving their temples as well as their cultural assets, tangible and intangible. About 10 days ago, I visited Cheongyongsa and noticed all the sutras, ritual objects, utensils, and paintings being taken out from an attic for the first time in 50 years. It was a very moving experience to witness the material evidence of the nuns who lived, practiced, and died in this temple generation after generation for more than 1,000 years. Restoring their full lineage through an organized endeavor is imperative, not only for the Buddhist community, but also for Korean women in general, because the 4 temples are the living proof of the persistence and wisdom with which our ancestors pursued their spirituality, even in the darkest time of Korean Buddhist history. Thank you.
Kunze was one of the first group of nuns to travel to India to study the Dharma. She was ordained first with Bakula Rinpoche, right? As a Genyan, a 5-precept nun, and then received 10 precepts also from Bakula Rinpoche? Yes, also from Bakula Rinpoche. We invited her and 3 companions to Jamyang Chuling, where she studied for 3 years, and altogether she was 15 years in India studying Buddhism. You all saw her chanting yesterday, which is another way to transmit the Dharma to a society in transition. Please welcome Shamanarika Thupten Kunze.
Historically, it is said that there have been many Buddhist women who were real leaders in different fields because they were highly educated. These women made great contributions to the spread of the Buddha Dharma in its preservation. It's said that often they were even wise advisors for both state and religion affairs. We find many words of wisdom and proverbs about such devoted women. It's notable that certain queens of Mongolian emperors invited High Tibetan Lama for teachings in order to spread Buddha Dharma in Mongolia. For example, in his renowned work entitled Alttan Irh, Nonch-based Not Gomwanjif, say that in the 13th century, Phagwa Lama met Hobila, the emperor of Mongolian led a debate. When Emperor Hobila asked many questions, the Sakya Lama Phagwa clearly answered all of them. When the emperor asked a question to test him, he also gave exact answers. The emperor therefore generated an enthusiastic faith in him. Meanwhile, his queen advised him to receive an important tantric transmission from the Lama because he had mastered the tantric tradition. The emperor said, if it's so, the queen should request the Lama receive the transmission first. Therefore, she received the initiation of Tenjok Hirova and generated great bliss in her mind and began to follow him. Afterwards, when she informed the emperor and he heard the inspiring story, the emperor decided to receive the transmission himself. Together with 24 people, he received the initiation of noble Jeochil of the Sagya tradition in its complete form. This is how the Vajrayana tradition first began to flourish in Mongolia. Tibetan sources document Mongolian women's sponsorship of the Buddha Dharma. For example, Sirdo Gegen Sumbum records that Dalai Dartan, the queen of Base Dajuntan, who was named Serin Samdang Noyung and was born in Halkha province, sponsored the printing of the Sumbum. The dedication includes a prayer that says, may she not forget the kindness of the Lama throughout all her lifetimes and never be separated from him, and may her devotion lead to her perfect enlightenment. There are some words of wisdom about reincarnation of Tara and Vajra Yogini, describing how they benefited sentient beings boundlessly. In particular, when Mongolian national independence was declared 1911, December 29, Bogd Jagtsen Lama was enthroned as the king of Mongolia. At the same time, Tondok Dolung, the reincarnation of Vaitara, was enthroned as State Ichtagin. Her place of origin was Jonongwang Chogbadra region of Sissingham province, currently Hintyu province. At a young age, Tondok Dolung received a good education. She was renowned as skilled church practitioner. Since she was born wise, she had great influence on people. Moreover, she was the holder of specific seal of temporal and spiritual authority. This proves that she played an important role at that time. Tondok Dolum composed special praises called Donju dedicated to 8 Bogd Jagtsen lineage lamas. Spiritual Mongolian women focused mainly of church practice, which originated with Majik Labdron, a wisdom Dagini who was considered an emanation of the Great Mother. In Tibet, Mongolian women practitioners who received complete transmission from their lineage lama. Some were very strong meditation practitioners who were highly qualified in fields and valued in mountains in meditation apart from worldly environment. Even today, their stories are spoken. There are some similarities between the Chod and Lujing practice. The word Chod refers to cutting or eradicating the root of the afflictive emotions. The word Lujing refers to offering the body, whereas Chod practice refers to making offerings to the three jewels, the main protectors and condomas of the revered tree, and requesting their protection. Lujing practice refers to offering the body to formless beings through meditation. This offering to the refuge tree is a practice of generosity and mostly a teaching on emptiness, so that the formless beings don't cause harm. It is said that in ancient times, before the communist purge, there were many powerful Chok practitioners and Khandomas in Mongolia who did actual offering of the body while chanting Chok prayers. Also, in Ikhure, the old capital, there was one Khandoma temple that followed the transmission of Jagar Mollum, and also several Khandoma temples that followed the transmission of Noyum Hotak Danzang Rapcha. Unfortunately, now there are only ruins of the temples in certain place near Noyum Hotak Danzang Rapcha, Hamrei Hid in Dorngo province. Some of the very dedicated senior Khandomas who deserved to the mission include Tuanjo and Tayacht, who have passed by, and Amma from Hindu province, who is said to be over 100 years old. This woman preserved and transmitted the church practice to their disciples secretly during the communist period. I'm proud to say that these are not the only women who did great deeds. There were many more dedicated women who preserved and transmitted their unique practice to their daughters. As a consequence, the money chanting has been preserved until today. Nowadays, the 9th Bogd Jeltsin Damba is kindly guiding Mongolian nuns and lay devotees in traditional Tantra. In particular, he is most kindly giving training in the Chok practice of Giluk tradition, including the art of chanting, rules, meditation plays, due to his kindness imparting this transmission. Mongolian women will certainly make significant contribution to spread of the Buddha Dharma. Mongolian modern Buddhist women. Some historical records say that Buddhism was first introduced to Mongolia during the Huni dynasty, the most powerful nomadic kingdom of Central Asia. 18 years ago, later Buddhism spread 2 more times in Mongolia. During the communist purge, Mongolian Buddhism was severely restricted by the government and suffered greatly.